Hey there, Shakers, and welcome back to another episode of Worth Your Salt, the podcast that's here to supercharge your marketing in the health and wellness space. I'm Jennifer Orechwa, StoryBrand certified coach, and over the past 2 decades, my team and I have tested, iterated, and figured out what it takes to market and grow so you don't have to. Now I'm here to help you apply the marketing systems that truly work. At Salt Marketing, we're all about helping wellness practitioners like you build trust, authority, and a nonstop flow of clients. So if you're ready to take your practice to the next level, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. On this episode of Worth Your Salt, I am thrilled to welcome Kathleen Carson, the founder of Patients and Profits. Kathleen's work is rooted in operations, in transforming how your practice runs so that every part of your business delivers not only profitability, but a better client experience. With over 15 years of hands-on experience in the medical field, working alongside doctors and their teams, Kathleen has seen what's possible when high standards are set across operations, from appointment access, front office flow, staff development, to the way treatment plans are presented and decisions are made. At Patients and Profits, she helps practices define what their patient experience should feel like, and then build out streamlined systems and processes so that everything behind the scenes supports that. So if you've ever felt bogged down by inefficiencies or struggled to make your patient experience match your values, the ones that you hold dear as a healer or provider, this episode is for you. Kathleen, welcome to Worth Your Salt.
Thank you so much for having me, Jennifer.
So Kathleen, we often start with a backstory on Worth Your Salt. I would love to hear what inspired you to launch Patients and Profits. What made you want to help practitioners improve that patient experience?
Yeah, so basically I was in medical device prior to starting Patients and Profits, and I got to see firsthand the physicians light up when they were taking care of patients in the OR or in the office cases. They really would continue to, improve their standard of care, bringing innovation to patients. And I love seeing that. And they said, my only problem is, Kathleen, how do I see more of these patients? How do I be able to give them that kind of transformation? So that really led me down the business development path. And that's what brought me to start Patients and Profits, because although I was doing that with the company, I was consulting with the company, my previous company, and they would fly me across the country to help practices build and grow their practice. I found as an entrepreneur, I can move quicker and bring in the innovation, the technology, the tools they really needed to help make this possible.
That makes sense. So how did you have your simple strategy for success that you kind of developed? How did your background influence the development of that?
Yes, great question. Well, I actually started in marketing, but what I found is when we were bringing the leads, as far as the simplicity, I go, well, where are the leads going? Why are the doctors not seeing them, right? And that led me to start the listening process, which is going to come into play here with the patient experience, but listening to say, what's happening to those leads? How are we taking care of them on the phones? Are they getting to the doctor? And then are they getting the treatment that the doctor believes is best for them? Or are they actually seeing those patients and able to close the gap? So it really helped me identify 3 different areas, 5 in total, but probably today we're just going to talk about the 3 different areas, that the buckets that I really felt like were just bottlenecks or gaps in service, to really help make things simple, to help with the patient experience, and to grow their practice and make it more profitable.
And that's something we see practitioners struggle with all the time. The leads come in, but where do they go, and what happens at that point? So I am wondering a little bit about, your values, and how do your values guide your approach to helping practitioners enhance that patient experience and profitability? And the reason I'm asking that is, for some people, those 2 things might seem at odds with one another, profitability and patient experience, but you seem to see the interconnectedness of the 2. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I do. And even the order of our company, Patients and Profits, we want our doctors to lead with heart, but we have also been with doctors having the backroom conversations that they would tell me, I'm struggling to make payroll. And when you're consulting, you get to hear the behind the scenes. And I thought compassionate care shouldn't look like you can't feed your families, you can't take care of the people, your staff, and be able to pay them the benefits that you want to pay, be able to do the employee events to say, hey, we appreciate you, thank you. for being with us, to be able to, mobilize a team. And so I just say that to say that those all take resources, right? To be able to take care of your staff, to be able to have these team building events, to be able to bring in innovation to your practice to give patients the best care. And what my opinion is bringing in that innovation. That all takes profitability. And so I believe that, yes, you start with patient care. Am I doing the right thing for the patient? Do I feel like I'm giving them great service, but not at the expense of also making sure you're being profitable? I believe that it is a mission to make sure that you're a good steward of what's in your hands and that you're always increasing it. And for the reasons that I did discuss.
And you mentioned, I'm the back office conversations of I'm struggling to make payroll and those sorts of things. So why do you think it is that patient experience often gets overlooked in practices? Why does it matter so much to you to put that patient experience front and center?
I don't think they see the business of delivering professional care. Quite simply, I don't think they see how much it can impact their practice. And let me give you just an example. We worked with the practice. Now this is 4 different doctors, 3 locations, but that when we went in and just started listening to their online experience, how people are coming in via their website and then their phones, we were able to show them how much money they were losing, $100,000 a month on the phones, which equated to $1 million in the year. That's just one example of one bottleneck in the patient experience. That might just sound like, well, are we answering the phones friendly? Are we taking care of them? Is access front and center? I mean, these are things that I don't think we're thinking about as how does that not only impact a patient that has pain, that's trying to come in or has wellness goals, right? And wants to come in and be seen, but also how is that affecting our profitability and not giving that great service up front? So I guess that's just one example is I think that doctors maybe don't see how those little things over time affect the patient experience, the profitability of the practice in the long run.
Yeah, and I imagine that it is a lot of little things, and the trying to dig into the details of that. I'm curious about what keeps you motivated through those challenges when you're helping a practice transform. I mean, what makes this work really deeply meaningful to you?
It's a great question. My heart is for physicians. I don't believe I choose meaningful work. I believe that this is a calling from God, and I believe that He has given me a heart for doctors. So what their pain is. I believe that they went into the mission field of being a doctor for patient care. I believe the good in doctors. I believe that's why they did. And so, I just say that to say that, I know they want to do that. And so if I can see areas that maybe they're not seeing, I want to bring that to her attention. I want to shine the light on it and be able to help them overcome that and to be able to have the light that they look up and say, I find a lot of joy and meaning in my work, right? And all of that goes together because, it also how you lead in the business and how that functions affects your family life as well. And so I know that on a personal level, we've seen marriages be restored because of business, being able to streamline these things and being able to operate at their next level. And I just want to help doctors be able to do that, wellness providers.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you say that. We always say in marketing that when you can more clearly articulate your client's pain than they can, then you truly understand what it is that they're going through. So I love that you say that. All right, we need to take a quick sponsorship break right now. When we come back, I want to dive into your specific 5-part framework that you referenced to serve patients and increase profits. We'll be right back.
Are you exhausted from running your wellness business by the seat of your pants, spending every spare second trying to piece together marketing emails, social posts, and sales pages, while your Keep app is basically screaming for attention? Listen, I get it. It feels like there should be more to show for all the hours, the hustle, the worry, right? But here's the truth. Hard work alone isn't enough if you don't have the right systems and shortcuts. That's why inside the Salted Edge membership, we've loaded up the ultimate wellness marketing toolkit. Think swipeable templates for your emails and social posts, done-for-you checklists, action-packed guides, and even copy and paste AI prompts so you never start from a blank page. You'll also get access to our tech library. Yes, even step-by-step walkthroughs for your Keep app. Plus pre-built automations that will make your marketing run like clockwork. Ready to stop feeling stuck and start seeing predictable, scalable results? Head to getfoundgetbooked.com and join us today. The Salted Edge, for wellness business owners who are done grinding and ready to grow. That's getfoundgetbooked.com. Getfoundgetbooked.com.
We're back here on the Worth Your Salt podcast with Kathleen Carson of Patients and Profits. So Kathleen, I want to dig into your five-phase strategy. I know you start with how patients first perceive the practice. So really first impressions. So phase one, you look at their online reputation, their digital marketing, their call tracking. Which of these tends to yield the fastest impact? How do you help practitioners get started?
Yes. Well, first, Jennifer, what I look at is, do they come with me knowing there's a problem? And what I mean by that is you can clearly, I would say reputation first. You want to be aware of how are you, when I say, the professionalism of the business of delivering care. Well, we know the front door is online these days, is, reviews, social media. So some doctors are not really aware or focused on, how am I showing up online through the reviews, right? And so I believe that number one, being aware of that is the first starting point. Am I listening online? Am I listening and do I care? And one of the ways I know that with the practice is, are they actually responding to reviews? Jennifer, you probably know even with search, that's actually a strategy to help with marketing. But more importantly, from a patient experience, am I listening? Do I care? And what shows a patient that you care in action is that you have somebody in the office responding when those come in, both good and negative. And so I say it starts there. If you're a practice that already is aware and you see that you have, a 4.8, 5-star review, then I say tracking. Because being able to track and listen to your calls will often identify other areas that you or your staff may not be aware of that's hurting the patient experience and the operations and ultimately your profitability.
Such great advice. So then in phase two, you call that process, and you talk about streamlining the workflows, and you document plans and standardize policies. Can you describe a typical transformation from like a cluttered practice to something that runs really smoothly?
Yes. So I'm going to start with just kind of what we're talking about here, this next phase. So once we talk about online, like the phones, right? Oftentimes I find, and, I've also been guilty of that, but doctors, they have everything in their head of what their service values are, of what their expectations are. But what I want to say is, like, oftentimes when we go in and we do an audit of a practice, we find that the staff is not aware. They're really not aware of how should we be answering these phone calls? What are our expectations on voicemail rates, on how we work the referrals? What is the timeliness there? When do we respond to patients? I mean, they need to hear from you as the owner, and not only do they need to hear, but those need to be in what we call SOPs. So standard operating procedures, so that number one, that's freedom for you, doctor, because once it's communicated once, then all staff gets trained on that. And if there's an issue, you can say, hey, go back to the front desk standard operating procedures with, how we answer phone calls. What is the attitude that we carry? Right? How soon do we get patients in? Those kind of things. So I just want to give that as one example of, and what we found is, I'm just going to give you a specific example of an office where we went in, and part of those processes are actually putting in metrics. So we have found that the front desk often is your starting point, that offices can't show us like how each girl or guy is performing on the phones, meaning how are we handling the call volume today? Are we fully staffed, right? Do we have enough people answering the phones? Is everyone being productive? Are they all operating at their highest and best use? How are we sounding to those patients on the phone? So I just say like the metrics there of how each staff is performing, also being able to get those numbers as far as being able to say like, hey, what percentage is going to voicemail? That kind of thing. A lot of times offices don't have those numbers, and those are in your phone systems, but oftentimes they just need to be set up so that somebody can. And then you want to have a front desk lead. You want to have an overseer to say, well, if our expectations are less than a 5% voicemail rate, right? Calls going to voicemail. And oftentimes now we have live chats on our, we've got web widgets on our phone. So, somebody needs to be overseeing our call to voicemail rate, how we're working referrals. Thirdly, are our live chats being responded to timely? So all that needs to be documented of your expectations and also the metrics to make sure that we're running a smooth, efficient. And then lastly, we put KPIs in those processes so that the staff know. And what KPIs are is a key performance indicator. So we just say, hey, we really want to focus, let's say, over this next quarter with getting referrals worked from, we have some offices where they've been at 100 referrals to down to 0 in a 24-hour capacity. So we have all front desk staff, does that make sense? Working that process, they know what to expect. And then the front desk overseer is making sure that we hit that number and they work as a team by the end of the month. So that's one example of just taking something that was ambiguous. There was no standards of service. There was no expectations in writing. And there's often no overseer that's holding people accountability. So when you get those 3 processes going, you will definitely see an improvement to that first phase of patient acquisition.
And that makes sense. So moving on from process, phase 3 for you is people, where you're focusing in on the hiring and the training and the customer service. So what are the most common sort of coaching gaps that you see? How do you elevate a team's patient-centered service quality?
Yeah. So the number one thing I see, and that has personally changed my life as well, is we have the wrong people sometimes in the wrong seat. And what I mean by that is, I don't know, we do personality profile testing. We have our offices do personality profile testing. And there are just certain people that are built better for customer service, that are more empathetic in nature, that are more people focused in their actual design. Like built that way, designed. So you're going to see greater efficiency. You're going to have less hassle there because they are just built and wired to perform with a certain excellence in that area because of their design. So do we have people that are just like I just described in the right places, I would say, and that's in all areas of the practice, right? And then secondly, I would say, do they know what your culture values are? So are we hiring for culture? So really hiring for culture and hiring for design from a people perspective.
And from there, then your phase 4 is procedures, where you're actually simplifying the presentation of treatments, coordinating of things, financial options to help people say yes. So can you share an example of a procedural breakthrough?
Yes. So with that, I would say, number one, do you as the physician believe in what you're offering? Does it come off with the energy of, I'm excited to present this to you. I'm excited about this new option for you. And the believability and just the way, because remember, I believe that they say that, 7% of communication, only 7% is actually in what you say. The rest of it is in how you show up. So what is your body language towards the patient? What is your tone? And if you believe, which, ultimately, if you come off with, I believe in this for you, and you're very confident about what you do, and then, you show up that way, that's part of it. That's a big piece of it. But then secondly, it's giving the patient options, letting them feel like they can choose, right? So I feel like that's one of those things. And I don't know if you want me to just give you an example of what that would sound like, or just basically instead of making them feel like there's only one way, you basically as a physician say, hey, we can do this, or we can do this, or here's a middle of the road option. And then they feel like they're owning their, when I look at reviews, a lot of times patients want to feel listened to, and they want to feel like they are in collaboration with you in their care, in their goals. And so what better way to do that than by giving them options that they then feel like they're collaborating with you. And then those financial options, kind of like you just mentioned to at the end, I find that sometimes we just offer one price, right? And instead of being able to break that down, if you look at so many different industries now, there's payment options, right? So for a patient, do we go the extra mile in service to make sure that, hey, not only when we're giving the finance, that we're also being able to give them payment options for those patients that maybe can't afford it at the time, or the all lump sum, that they can break it out over time. So I find that that's just sometimes a missed piece. We don't offer the self-pay. I know your audience, we work with a lot of physicians with insurance, but I know for you guys, the cash pay is more of so I think even that, right, breaking it up in payment plans or something like that can help them overcome any type of cost objection that's a true cost objection.
Yeah, so that translates perfectly into phase 5, which is profits, where you're focusing on their P&L and growth planning and analytics and metrics. And I'm really curious here, because a lot of what you do might be nebulous in nature. Like we can't draw dollars, straight from, you didn't make this phone call. So how do you turn the patient experience work into measurable profits?
Yeah, so with the patient experience work into measurable profits, I believe it's tracking the patient all the way through. I mean, you're familiar, Jennifer, with CRMs, right? And one of those things, I just feel like a lot of times we don't really follow their journey through a systematic way that could lead to giving better patient experience and profitability. And so I think that's one of those things where, are we tracking that? Has anybody ever done even like a customer journey of what your all the way through from a first patient visit to if they were to get treatment, to if they were to be recommended a procedure, what is the lifetime value of that patient, right? And so I just find that is one area that oftentimes there's not a system in place to be able to answer those questions. And so we like to go into an office and help them really break out the customer journey and their lifetime value over time, and really help them see that from the business of delivering care and giving a better patient experience, which does affect their profitability.
Yeah, we talk a lot about lifetime value with our clients as well. So I'm curious if a wellness practitioner wanted to prioritize just one of these phases, because it's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to be done here. Where should they start? Where does momentum start to build, and why should they start there?
Yeah, so listening to what is your biggest pain point right now? Where should we start, right? Which of those areas that maybe I just described feels like your greatest pain point? I would take a look there. I would start there. Also, I would have somebody, a third party, ask your staff around that around that area, because what I find is that just in listening, a lot of times the issues, the bottlenecks, the strategies, they come right from your own team. But are we taking the time to ask? And I do find that a lot of times they're more open to maybe telling somebody else who's not their boss.
Yeah, taking the time to listen is often something that people struggle with. All right, Kathleen, it's time for another quick break. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to the Worth Your Salt podcast, and today I'm talking with Kathleen Carson of Patients and Profits, who's sharing her 5-phase strategy to make sure every aspect of your practice is aligned for high performance and strong profit. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so be sure to join us over on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook and share how your operations are supporting an exceptional client experience. We're back. And so, Kathleen, before the break, we were talking about the 5 phases of your Patients and Profits framework. But now I want to get into what comes next for you and for the practices you serve. Where is Patients and Profits headed next? Are you planning new resources or formats or services? How are you supporting the doctor's offices and wellness practices that you work with?
Thanks for asking, Jennifer. We do a lot of on-site, live type of consulting, coaching, training. And so where we're headed next is getting more of that. We really just listening to our clients say, could you provide online training video formats? For example, if we do end up losing a staff member, we would love to have every person go through that training. So for us, it's starting to take what we do, put them in a video format, have an online library so that basically, we can basically have more staff trained in the most efficient and economical way.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. So what trends do you see shaping the future of patient experience? I mean, video training, standard operating procedures, all those things probably play into this. But when we're talking about patient experience and operational excellence, how do you see the trends going in the future?
More and more of the next generation wants to do things online. They want to communicate when it's on their time, if that's at night, if that's first thing in the morning. And so while to some people, like online scheduling would be just something that is, you would think, well, duh, that's obvious. We don't have all our practices doing that. Does that make sense? But that's one of the things that patients want. They want to be able to pick the day and time during the time that works best for them. So that's one example, right? I just see more things being able to text. We have a lot of our offices that still don't offer a HIPAA compliant texting. Does that make sense? Where we could, a lot of this next generation wants to text. They don't communicate as much as on the phone. As much as I love more of the phone, the next generation, they just want to be able to text you. So is your office set up for that type of texting? And not only that, take it to the next level, texting with routing. So when you comes from a customer service, when they're getting that text, it's not going to someone that can't answer their question. If it's billing, that text gets routed. It's a more complex billing question. That text gets routed to the billing department that then can literally answer that more complex question, right? I do see for basic FAQs, AI, every office needs to be using it. That is coming into greater play here to helping you, number one, actually improve the experience. So a lot of these frequently asked questions can be answered via a chatbot on the website. We have offices right now evaluating AI front desk, or AI, I should say, virtual phone receptionist. So these are some of the trends that I see coming that are here now, but I think that, more and more offices will start to look at, not only from a patient experience and being able to offer 24/7 customer service, really, but secondly, profitability. It frees up your staff to be doing more of the higher task and the repetitive task. If you bring in AI in all areas of your practice, it will reduce your overhead.
Yeah, that's great advice for sure. All right. So how can our listeners best connect with you, whether through booking a consultation, resources? Where can they find you online?
Thank you. They could go online at patientsandprofits.com and book a discovery call with me. And that would be the best way to get in contact.
All right. So finally, what's one actionable takeaway that you would leave our listeners with? Something they could implement right after this episode to improve that patient experience or their practice profitability?
Great question. I would go online. I would start with listening to see, basically, what are my reviews say today? What are people raving about? How can I do more of that? What is maybe an area? Oftentimes that's right in there, right? If it'll tell you if it's a finance thing, if it's a how we're being treated on the phones. I mean, I would just start there. And then if that's already done, then I would go ahead and make sure that there's tracking in on your phone calls and your live chats that are coming in, being able to make sure that you kind of really see what's going on there. That's where I would start, because that's the front door of the patient experience is online and then your phones.
Great advice. Great advice. All right. Of course, a link to the Patients and Profits website and everything Kathleen mentioned here will be in our show notes at saltmarketing.co. But right now it is time for our lightning round questions. These are a few quick questions that I like to ask of every guest. Kathleen, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Our first question is, what's something about you that often surprises people?
That I'm a scuba diver.
Okay. That is unusual, particularly from where you live.
Yes.
So what's your favorite thing about the work that you do?
My favorite thing is really listening to the doctors and really understanding, having compassion for what they're going through and really helping bring hope solutions to that. That's really what lights me up at the end of the day. And when we're able to do that and they come back and tell us that, that's why we do what we do. And that makes my heart sing. That affects the patient experience, right? It affects patient care and it affects their family.
Absolutely. All right. Next question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
So was my first mentor, my first coach. People were canceling, meaning not people were canceling. Sorry, Jennifer, but I would actually go and, I would have a meeting with a doctor and he would just cancel. And so maybe some of these doctors can relate, right? You've got the cancellations. And my coach said to me, I go, gosh, this is just so frustrating. This is when I first started business. And she goes, well, that's on you. And I just looked back at her and she said, people can't honor the boundaries that you never set. I didn't have any type of cancellation policy. And so I guess that was just the best advice that I would, if there is no policy in place, right, to help honor them and honor your boundaries, then it really falls back on you. So.
Good advice. All right. Last question. Who's inspiring you right now? What podcast are you listening to, or what's the best book that you've read recently?
Well-Oiled Operations is, it's the company that I feel like their brand name says it, but basically that is what's inspiring me right now, is working with those coaches, their podcasts, their training to help us continue to improve our operational excellence and get better and better. I'm a lifelong learner, and I believe in hiring coaches. I have since the infancy of this business to help me continue to take what we do to the next level from people that are further ahead. So
that's fantastic. We'll make sure we link up that book in the show notes as well. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode of Worth Your Salt.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer. I really appreciate it.
I also want to thank you, Salt Nation. If you have a great success story, I'd love to talk with you and share your story. So tell us about why you're worth your salt by emailing us at grow@saltmarketing.co. Of course, be sure to subscribe to Worth Your Salt so you never miss an episode. Finally, leave us a review or give the show a handful of stars wherever you get your content. That's all for this episode of Worth Your Salt. Be sure to join me again next time. In the meantime, let's get out there and shake things up.